Need order. Clerk of the board, please call the roll.
Arencipian?
Present.
Emerald?
Here.
Lopez Cepeda?
Here.
Segura?
Here.
Solis?
Present.
Aguirre?
Here.
Thank you. This is a point on the agenda where members of the public may address the board on matters posted for the special meeting and in accordance with Government Code Section 54954.3A. The board will provide an opportunity for members of the public to directly address the legislative body concerning any item that has been described in the notice for the meeting before or during consideration of that item. Each person wishing to address the item on the meeting notice in closed session will have 2 minutes to do so.
There are no speakers, Mr. President.
If there is no further communication, I will recess the meeting for consideration of the following closed session items as posted on the meeting notice. Looks like we have 7 items: student expulsion, suspended expulsions, biggest statement, Education Code Section 48916 to 48918, students ID'd by case and ID number. 2, public employee evaluation, appointment transfer, Government Code Section 54957, 3, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, Government Code Section 54957. 4, conference of legal counsel, existing litigation, paragraph 1 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956.9. 5, conference with legal counsel anticipating litigation, paragraph 2 subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956. 6, conference with legal counsel anticipating litigation, paragraph 4 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956.9. And finally, 7, conference with labor negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6. We'll adjourn to closed session. I'd like to reconvene the regular board meeting. Clerk of the board, please call roll.
Arencibia?
Present.
Emerald? Here. Lopez Zepeda? Here. Segura?
Here.
Solis?
Present.
Aguirre?
Here.
Cardiaga? Here.
Thank you. We'll now hold a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. Thank you. Hand over your heart, please. Ready? Begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The board met in closed session preceding this meeting to discuss the following issues: student expulsion, suspended expulsion, reinstatements, education code, section 48916 to 48918, students identified by case and ID number 2, public employee evaluation, appointment transfer, government code section 54957, 3, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, government code section 54957, 4, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, paragraph 1 of subdivision D of government code section 54956.9, 5, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, paragraph 2 of subdivision D of government code section 54956.9, 6, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, paragraph 4 of subdivision D of government code section 54956.9, and 7, conference with labor negotiator, government code section 54957.6. The board took the following action. Moved by Solis, seconded by Segura, to approve the reinstatement of one student with a vote of Arencibia, yes; Admiral, yes; Lopez Cepeda, yes; Segura, yes; Solis, yes. Moved by Segura, seconded by Solis, to approve the appointment of J. Marquand as Director of Adult Ed with a vote of Arencibia, yes; Admiral, yes; Lopez Cepeda, yes; Segura, yes; Solis, yes. Moved by Lopez Cepeda, seconded by Solis, to approve the appointment of Bill Walsh as Principal, Hilltop High School, with a vote of Arencibia, yes; Emerald, yes; Lopez Cepeda, yes; Segura, yes; Solis, yes. Moved by Emerald, seconded by Lopez Cepeda, to approve the appointment of Nina Hermosillo as Principal of Castle Park Middle School, with a vote of Arencibia, yes; Emerald, yes; Lopez Cepeda, yes; Segura, yes; Solis, yes. Moved by Solis, seconded by Segura, to approve the appointment of Jose Luis Vargas Jr. as Principal, National City Middle School, with a vote of Arencibia, yes; Emery, yes; Lopez Cepeda, yes; Segura, yes; Solis, yes. Moved by Arencibia, seconded by Lopez Cepeda, deny the request for leave of absence for one certificated employee, with a vote of Arencibia, yes; Emery, yes; Lopez Cepeda, yes; Segura, yes. Moved by Lopez Cepeda, seconded by Solis, to approve the request for leave of absence for one certificated employee, with a vote of Arencibia, yes; Emerald, yes; Lopez Cepeda, yes; Segura, yes; Solis, yes. Moved by Lopez Cepeda, seconded by Emerald, to approve the request of leave of absence for one certificated employee, with a vote of Arencibia, yes; Emerald, yes; Lopez Cepeda, yes; Segura, yes; Solis, yes. Moved by Lopez Cepeda, seconded by Emerald, to retain and direct legal counsel to initiate or intervene in a legal action, social media litigation. The action, the defendants, the other particulars shall, once formally commenced, be disclosed to any person upon inquiry, unless to do so would jeopardize the district's ability to effectuate service of process on one or more unserved parties, or that to do so would jeopardize the district's ability to conclude existing settlement negotiation to its advantage, with a vote of Arencibia, yes; Emerald, yes; Lopez Cepeda, yes; Segura, yes; Solis, yes. There you go there. So that's why we're 10 minutes late. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda for the June 12th, 2023 regular board meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Cardiaga?
Yes.
Arencibia?
Yes.
Emerald?
Yes.
Lopez Zepeda? Yes. Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Outstanding. Yes. Superintendent wants to make a quick announcement.
Quick public service announcement. If anybody needs translation or interpretation services, they're located at the back. Si alguien necesita servicios de interpretación, se encuentra atrás del espacio. Gracias.
All right. The board is very proud to recognize the CARE Network Partnership, the Center for Research on Equity and Innovation at the High-Tech Graduate School of Education, along with partners from CREATE at the University of California, San Diego, and the California Math Project have formed the CARE Network. The goal is to increase the number of students who are Black, Latinx, Indigenous, or from low-income backgrounds to have a strong academic identity and are on track in the 8th grade to graduate high school and successfully enter college and career. There are 4 teacher leads in this district who are dedicated to supporting this program, and we are very happy to recognize them tonight. Please help me honor Vicky Bauer, Bonita Vista Middle, Ms. Fernandez and Kathy Tom, Chula Vista Middle, Melanie Villanueva, Hilltop Middle, and Teeny?
Oh, I'm sorry, Tina.
Tina? Sorry. I'm known for butchering names, so that wasn't me. Tina
That was me. Sorry.
Sarai? See, that was me. Montgomery Middle, along with representatives from the CARE Network. So if you could please come forward. Go ahead, Superintendent.
Thank you so much. So first of all, I just wanted to recognize the good work that our staff has done with the CARE Network this year. As part of the work, it was actually part of this work is what led to the visit by Mr. Gates to Chula Vista Middle. The good work that was happening there was noticed and really was an outlier in a positive sense. And so we want to take a moment to recognize the work of the CARE Network. I'll ask Dr. Winters, who's been our liaison to the CARE Network, to just share some of the work, and then we can acknowledge everybody who's been participating. Dr. Winters?
Sure thing, thank you. Yes, we have several school teams who have been working with the CARE Network, and the intention, as you heard, to improve math performance, which is a real on-track metric for graduation. So those teams have been working together with support from the High Tech High School, Graduate School of Education. And I don't know if Katarina's here today. The CARE Network was going to send Katarina. Nobody by the name of Katarina in the room? Okay, good, they're not here. So I'm gonna turn it over to Alnicar, who is one of those teachers we've heard mentioned, and he can talk to you more about what they do at the school site level to help improve student performance.
Welcome, Emil.
Hello. Do I just okay? Yeah. The things we do is we take the students into account. So we don't just treat them as students. We treat them as part of the family of our classrooms. So we treat them as being part of us. So it's not our class. It's not my classroom. It becomes our classroom. We try to connect, build relationships with them, because through those relationships, the students start opening up to us. We give them also surveys that we ask them to honestly rate us on. And through those surveys, we also get feedback from them. And that's what helps us grow and improve as educators, which is what we're striving for every time. So, and that, in short, that's what we do.
And do we have a recognition? Certificates?
Yes, I have the certificates. Any board members have any questions or comments on?
Just a
On this
quick comment, if I may.
recommendation?
I just want to say thank you for all you do. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We really appreciate what you do for the kids.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a comment.
Yes. Ms. Cepeda.
As a classroom teacher, I understand exactly what you do is we make our classroom family. And once we are that classroom family, we take care of each other and we support each other and applaud each other's successes. And if we're not doing very well, it's always wonderful to see how somebody in the family will go over and say, hey, it's okay. We can do it. You can do it. I know you can.
So, Mr. Fernandez, if I may add, I was there when Mr. Gates came to the classroom, and he was there, participating, and I was very impressed with everything he did, but more impressed with the work that you were doing. I'm sure he was too, as well as everybody else there. But, that's exactly the goals that we need to do. And I know when I was a student, and math was usually what, I needed help with, and I received the help through middle and high school, and it really led me to become an electrician, because I was learning to master, algebra and geometry and go forth from there. And that it really made a difference. I didn't go the college route per se to get a degree, but I went through a 5-year apprenticeship where, you had some intense theory during our second year. And it was because of those skills that led me to do that and have a career and retire with a couple pensions, and, things are good. But I truly appreciate the work, and I truly appreciated the way you taught and teach, and just seeing the interaction with the students, and just not just, here's the math problem, this is how you do it, and then you show them once, and then, then they're on their own. I really love the dialogue, and I could see how that is important in what you do, and allowing the students to learn that and communicate, because we're all about, no matter what you do in life, you're gonna have to master communication and relationships. And I was truly amazed by all that work, and thank you for being one of our teachers and leading that, and thanks again.
Yeah, so I really just wanted to point out that this is real life examples of what social emotional learning can lead in one of those areas that tends to not lend itself to social emotional approaches. But Mr. Fernandez and the work of the network really is around how can we make sure we're supporting our students 360 degrees so they can be fully seen, fully heard across our classrooms. And this is, again, I think the work speaks for itself and the evidence speaks for itself. And because of that, students are learning and they're doing great, not just academically, but social emotionally as well. So thank you for that, Mr. Fernandez.
Thank you everyone.
If not, well, if you welcome you up to the front to hand you these certificates. If anybody else is here.
And there's a couple of principals who are part of the CARE network. So Dr. Salazar and I think Mr. Patterson, I see you around here, so please come on up.
Great work, folks. You guys ready? Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. We'll now have a message from Superintendent Moises Aguirre.
Thank you, President Segura. Good evening and buenas tardes to everybody. Welcome to our June 12th, 2023 board meeting. I hope this message finds everybody doing well. Now that we have concluded the academic year, I wanted to provide you with a brief update on the various graduations, promotions, and other end of the school year activities that have taken place in our district during the last couple of weeks. So on graduations at the end of May and June were filled with wonderful celebrations as we bid farewell to our graduating seniors. The high school graduation ceremonies were held successfully at all of our high schools where our graduates, parents, and staff came together to commemorate this significant milestone. The ceremony showcased our students' achievements and offered them an opportunity to reflect on their educational journey. Promotions, additionally, we celebrated the promotions of our students transitioning from middle school to high school at each of our middle schools, and we tried to make it a point that they would occur at our high schools so they could be welcomed by the receiving high school. At each of our middle schools, promotion ceremonies were conducted to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of our students. These events were organized with utmost care to ensure a memorable experience for our young learners as they advance to the next phase of their education.
end of school year activities. In the spirit of fostering a positive, engaging learning environment, our district organized various end of school year activities at school sites to promote school spirit, creativity, connection, and community involvement. Some of the highlights include activities such as awards and recognition ceremonies, fine arts exhibitions, as well as recognizing some of our student student athletes. The collective effort of our administrators, teachers, support staff, and community members make these occasions truly memorable for our students. And I, for one, can actually speak as a proud parent of a graduate from our district and can attest firsthand to the wonderful education that happens in our schools. And I want to thank every single staff member who helps that, from the teachers to the classified staff to the community volunteers. Thank you for such a wonderful experience for all of our students. And so with that, I'd like to express my heartfelt appreciation to everyone involved in planning and conducting these end-of-year school activities. I know it's a push, but it truly matters to all of our stakeholders. Your dedication, creativity, pride, and commitment to our students have contributed to a successful and memorable culmination of the 22-23 academic year. As we look forward to the summer break, I'm confident that the momentum generated during these celebrations will carry over into the next academic year, setting the stage for continued success and growth. Thank you for your ongoing support and for your unwavering dedication to all of our students and families that we serve. To every single person, I hope you have a wonderful summer break. Gracias por la oportunidad de servir.
Thank you, Superintendent. We'll now have a report from our Student Board Representative, Ms. Garriaga.
Hi, good evening, and I hope everyone has a good start to their summer. The ASU presidents and I did not meet, and as now they're mostly off duty, but that doesn't mean the students are not hard at work preparing for the upcoming school year. Mar Vista hosted the annual ASB camp, one that teaches and guides ASB students from every school around the district so that they can thus empower their schools. And it was such a privilege to see their first day and all of the community building that they did, because it's like a 2-day activity. Dr. Margaret Cedar and I gave a presentation on a new mission we want to spread at every school, and that is the Bring Change to Mind Club, where each school will get the resources they need to begin a club that will open up the conversation around mental health. Even after my time as Sweetwater Board Representative, I still want to put the time in this work because I know our district will benefit greatly from it. And finally, remember to rest. It's finally summer. Thank you.
Thank you. We can move to D1. Conduct a public hearing, first reading to gather community feedback for the proposed 2023-2024 Local Control Accountability Plan. I will now open the public hearing. Are there any speakers?
There are no speakers, Mr. President.
The hearing is now closed. We'll now have the staff presentation and board discussion on the LCAP.
Thank you, President Segura. I'll ask Dr. Alvarez to lead us through this presentation. Dr. Alvarez.
Good evening, Dr. Aguirre, President Segura, board members, community. Thank you for being here. The LCAP is an item that we bring every year, but it's a living document. It's a document that throughout the year we measure and we analyze. For this evening, we're just going to give you a brief overview. The LCAP itself is about 138 pages. It's very dense. There's a lot of information. But for our new board members, I think it's crucial that as you see the development of the LCAP throughout the school year and then the metrics that we'll bring at the next board meeting, it's just important to keep in mind that it really continues to focus on our 4 goals. We continue to look at what are we doing in the classroom to provide students a very strong academic program for that excellence, to prepare them for college and career. Our goal 2, looking at making sure that our learning environments are healthy and that we're building a culture of equity in our schools to promote, once again, excellence across the district. Our 3rd goal is really to foster and honor the commitment of our community members and parents. So once again, we're supporting student success. And goal 4 is to make sure that we develop a coherent and transparent system for that operational excellence. Those goals have been established since 2015 as a district. We've stayed pretty steadfast on those. All of our site plans, which are also on the board agenda this evening, are aligned to those 4 goals. Our WASC initiatives are tied to those, and our strategic plans at school sites are all tied to those. So we've been very consistent about making sure that we are in alignment and we have a coherent process in terms of looking at academic supports for students and those supports at the school sites for our staff as well. So the legislation states that by July 1st, we have to adopt not only the local control accountability plan, but also a budget overview for parents. Both of those are incorporated into the item this afternoon, and you will see that in the attachments. But I wanted to give you just a quick overview of the timeline. In February through May, we gathered data from our educational partners and our community. And what that looks like is we do in-person meetings, we do site meetings, we have online meetings with community, and we conduct a very comprehensive survey. So over 1,200 people participated in our survey. We analyze that data, we look at frequency of items, and we look at alignment of actions and services for our students. We also have a public period comment. We've done that through DLAC and DPAC, and we've also done it through this board meeting, through this hearing, where there will be the ability to submit comments, and we will have the ability to look at any potential modifications of the item. The public hearing occurs now. This is the first public hearing. The June 26 board meeting will be the final adoption of both the local control accountability plan as well as the budget overview, the parent budget overview, and of course the LCFF, our general budget. In California, we have 8 state priorities, and they fall under 3 different types of areas. The first area is conditions for learning, so it's looking at the basic services that we offer. Those are funded through the general fund. We look at our state standards, once again, also supported through the general fund, and our course access. With student engagement, we're looking at, or parent engagement, I'm sorry, we're looking at parent involvement, student engagement, and that school climate. And so once again, you'll start seeing those alignment to those 4 goals, and our student outcomes and student achievement. So everything within the LCAP is measured against those 8 state priorities. Just as a process for stakeholder engagement, it really is looking at a needs assessment. What are those needs that we have? We look at data, we analyze that data, we develop a goal, we develop the actions and strategies to try to address those needs, and then we look at our measurable outcomes on a yearly basis. One of the big areas that is a component of the LCAP is that continual feedback loop and presentation and getting feedback from our community partners. So as I mentioned, we conduct the district-wide survey, we present to our community groups, we involve cabinet, our principals, our educational partners, and then we also have to make sure that the SELPA, which is the Special Education Local Agency, provides feedback. And so all of that will be completed prior to the June 26th presentation of the final LCAP. As I mentioned, we collected over 1,200 survey responses, and these are some of those areas that were highlighted under each goal. And it's really looking at providing those quality programs under Goal 1 for students, looking at having dual language, our access to CTE, the career technical education, making sure that students who aren't necessarily motivated to go to college but have a career option after our secondary options. We also looked at visual and performing arts programs, making sure that we have supports such as counselors for students, and that we are assisting our English learners and students with disabilities. Additional, under Goal 2, mental health services was probably the #1 frequency of items that was included. We've seen that post-pandemic, but of course that was an element that was required beforehand, where mental health services for our students has always been at the center of that Goal 2 and supports. We also looked at how do we increase engagement and student attendance. Once again, post-pandemic, student attendance has been one of those critical areas of need, so we continue to look at that and monitor that. And then making sure that our classrooms are updated and that we improve the physical facilities of our spaces. That was also something that was commented on with high frequency, as well as the focus on campus safety. So through many of our parent discussions, the use of cameras, the professional development and supports at school sites were included in those conversations. And then in terms of parent engagement, is making sure that we offer a very easy method for them to participate. And then one of the items that was different from those that we've had in the past is looking at how do we remove some of those barriers for intra-district transfers within our own school district. And then the last one was, once again, looking at the prioritization of facilities and the quality of our facilities, being able to maintain those. They had a lot of questions about how funding for facilities occurred. So we included those in here so that they would know. So when we looked at the totality of the LCAP, chronic absenteeism, as I mentioned, post-pandemic absenteeism has risen, and so we're looking at how do we address that. We've looked at how to reduce suspension rates, how to increase the college and career readiness for our students, including technical education and having access to that. How do we ensure that our students are meeting standard at English language art levels and mathematics across the district, improving our graduation rates, looking at those social, emotional, mental health needs, that re-engagement in those after-school programs and professional development. We also looked at how do we engage that community outreach, so that could be facilitated by our community relations facilitators at sites, having teachers on special assignments through our career and college pathways, multiple systems of supports, making sure that we're having those proactive programs at our middle schools and high schools, and then additional supports for direct services for students in the classroom at the school sites. I did want to highlight, because the carryover is a new plan that we have to include, and so these were some of those allocations that were included. They were embedded into the LCAP, but I wanted to disaggregate them and highlight them. We did look at increasing our library teacher allocation. Our athletic directors, we increased to 0.2 FTE. We looked at our ASB advisors at the middle school and offered them full-time positions. We augmented 5. We brought these new positions to the district of social workers. We also added some FTEs for a school psychologist. Once again, that heavy emphasis on mental health services. We've talked about the CTE pathways. We've looked at providing supports at the high schools for that credit recovery for our students, and then making sure that we're supporting the California graduation plan at school sites. And then one of the biggest elements, which we'll probably be making a little bit of an adjustment, is the tutoring services. We're actually going to increase that amount so that we can have in every high school at least 5 math English tutors, at the middle schools 3 for every school site, in addition to what they already have. So that would be an augmentation. We've looked at VAPA transportation of increasing that for the budget through this carryover, and then looking at some additional supports with safety, with additional lunch stipends. Once again, that's a safety aspect. And then supporting our VAPA and our teachers that were released and now are being reinstated. So that carryover plan is just over a little bit over $20 million. And so I wanted to note that because it's embedded. It's not the way the state gave us our plan. There wasn't a separate plan that you wrote. And so I just wanted to make sure that you knew those elements, that those are additional elements. So this plan, as I said, today's the first read. As you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And then the final read will be June 26th.
Thank you, Dr. Arbus. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
I'd like to comment.
Yes, Dr.
I'm
Alcibia.
really, really happy to see the allotment that's made to VAPA and to social emotional. It's really important for And we're all seeing the stress that our students are going through. As a parent, I can tell you, the socialization skills that were out for during the period of the pandemic need to be revisited, and students need to feel like that they're listened to. And then I just really it's about finding your place on campus. If there's one beautiful thing that I've learned about Bonita Vista, in my experience, is about finding a place on your campus. If it is VAPA, if it is sports, if it's the band, if it's one of the clubs on campuses. And I think by providing this LCAP carryover for the proposed, expenditures, I think what we're allowing our schools to do is provide spaces for them, even if it is mental health on our campus, be a psychologist and social workers. I think this is something that we have to be able to provide for our students. And I think the more that we do that, I think the more we can transition back into whatever normalcy there was before the pandemic. And I'm very happy with this, and I just want to say thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Arencibia. Anyone else? Go ahead, Lopez Cepeda.
Dr. Alvarez, on page 14, RIF, resource teachers, are those the added academic tutors that you're going to be adding, or is it, can you clarify that for me?
So those resource teachers are additional teachers at the school sites that will be brought in to support. They were, in the past, identified as cluster subs. Yeah.
Thank you, Trustee Solis.
Thank you, President Segura. Thank you, Dr. Alvarez, and your team for putting this together and doing such a great job. 'Cause I know when Mr. Segura and myself came in 2014, this was not anything close to this. So thank you for all the hard work you put into this LCAP. With regards to the survey, how do you get it out there? How do people find out?
So we publicize it on social media. We send it out through Instagram, through Facebook, but we also publicize it on our website, and then we send it out to school sites. We've sent it out through School Messenger and IC, so that everyone across the district has access to the survey.
Excellent, thank you. And with regards to the mental health, I know Ms. Cariaga had brought up the initiative that she's going to be spearheading after that she's starting already. I was wondering if there's a possibility to get that in here, or if it can work with the LCAP or whatnot.
Definitely, there is some funding available. It would just be, through cabinet, having some of those discussions. We also have some ESSER funds that are still under ESSER 3 that have been allocated to support, in particular, mental health services, and also the multi-tiered systems of support. And so those funds would probably be commingled, co-braided, in order to support the programs.
Excellent, thank you, appreciate you.
Anyone else? I'd just like to add, I appreciate the investment that we continue to put into learning recovery. I know that we're still, there's still a lot of work there that our teachers are still trying to do, and doing a great job of it, and as well as the tutoring services. I truly believe in, a number of these items that are here, expenditures that are definitely needed, and the social worker, psychologist, just like what like my colleagues are saying. I do have a question. Could you please describe how LCAP braids and complements other fundings, sort of, like federal funding like Title I and et cetera?
Sure. So as a district, we receive Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV, along with LCAP and our general fund. So our general fund is over $500 million. Our LCAP is about $77 million on top of the additional $20 million that we had in carryover for this year, plus $8 million, a little bit over $8.7 million that we had for 21-22 carryover. Title I is about $10 million. Title II, about $2 million. Title III, I'm not going to quote it, it's about maybe $700,000. And then Title IV is about $600,000. So all of those funds along with the ESSER funds that we've received. So along with all of those funds, what we try to do is really focus on those 4 goals. Once again, those 4 goals, and look at what our base program is supporting, and then what are those supplemental programs that we can build on top of the original funds. So, for example, with attendance coordinators, the LCAP funds attendance coordinators at the high school at a 0.4. So what many high schools do that have Title I funds is what they'll do is they'll add to that allocation. And so they'll have an attendance coordinator that instead of being a 0.4 is a 0.8. So they work 4 periods as a Title I funded, supported attendance coordinator. And so it's really augmenting the services that are funded by either general fund, LCAP, and then adding that through the title monies. And so what it does, it builds a stronger balance for our school sites, additional supports, but once again, focused on those 4 goals and those outcomes.
Thank you for that answer.
Welcome.
I think it's very important to understand how that all works together. If there's no other questions, that's just, there's no action on that, so we'll do that next meeting. We can move on to, thank you for that presentation and that work for you and your team. We'll move on to D2. I'll conduct a public hearing and first reading to gather community feedback on Sweetwater Union High School District's preliminary 2023-24 proposed budget. I will now open the public hearing. Are there any speakers?
There are no speakers, Mr. President.
I will now close the public hearing. We'll now have the staff presentation and board discussion on the proposed budget. Dr. Getty?
Thank you, President Segura. For this item, I'll ask our Chief Financial Officer, Dr. Jenny Salkeld, to lead us through this presentation. Dr. Salkeld.
Well, good evening, President Segura, Board Trustees, Superintendent Aguirre, Cabinet, and community members. So we're going to be presenting the 23-24 budget. This is complementary to what Dr. Alvarez just presented. Education Code does have it structured where the LCAP goes first because it is the guiding document, sets the priorities in terms of how the budget is developed. So what we'll be highlighting is information from the Governor's May Revise. That is the new set of information that we received a few weeks ago. And then that's what's been incorporated in what we're presenting to you today in the public hearing. We'll highlight a couple of the assumptions that go into revenue and expenditure, look at our multi-year projections, and then also our cash flow considerations. And what we have here, you can see, is the timeline, because we did incorporate some elements of the budget for 23-24 when the governor released his proposal back in January. So those factors have already been included in the second interim when we brought that in March, and then continuing to the work now into May and then June. Things are certainly moving because it's from May to June. The legislature, so as an example, before coming to the boardroom here, I received an email from CASBO that the state legislature has completed their final budget because they have until the 15th. And so now that'll start the negotiations with the governor. So there's still a lot of things moving at the state level as we continue our deliverables and our milestones that we have with the first read and the second read. So we'll continue to watch and see what those developments are. But for purposes of the budget, we've built what the governor has released. And then with that, once the budget is adopted, we will bring back to the board any key changes that have a financial impact as an informational item in August. That kind of recaps what was in the final budget at the state. So that kind of then gives you that look ahead. And so the key details here that we'll highlight, you can see where the difference was back from the proposal in January to where we are with May. A couple of items to note is the shortfall at the state level. What we've seen, and we'll highlight in the next few slides, is that they have utilized, or the governor's office has utilized one-time funds as a means to balance the budget at the state level. So the arts, music, and instructional materials grant, which we already had a reduction at in January, which we factored into our second interim work, there was an additional reduction. going forward in May. So where we started out with about a $21 million allocation, now it's about $10 million. And again, these are all also considerations that are factored in the guidance that we get from the county office. And then also on the Learning Recovery Grant, that one's new, that was not incorporated back in January. May included a reduction, which amounts about to $15 million for the district, because that overall grant was $49 million. We're now looking at about $34 million. What's unique with these two grants is the district has already received the funds. So the cash is in the bank, basically. But now, and per the guidance also with the county, so this last one, the Learning Recovery Grant, we have set up on our cash flows for the month of July of paying back the cash of $15 million back to the state. So that is very unique. It's what we call kind of the clawback. So not only from the budget standpoint, now it's also moving cash back to the state. So those are, again, things could change, but depending on what's in the state legislature proposal, along with the governors until it gets settled later this month. So this just kind of highlights the various themes from the May revise. Certainly highlighting the uncertainty and some of the components there. And then, we are very dependent on what happens at the economic level at the state and what trickles down for us as school districts. So something to continue to monitor. And then these next two slides just highlight what I mentioned about the various grants and what the impact is there. So the next few items that then roll into the work that we're doing after what we presented at second interim in March are looking at the key factors, enrollment being one of them. That's what goes into our LCFF calculation, which we also review with the county during the last few weeks into the work that we're bringing forward. So you can see that continued reduction as we're seeing the various pattern of the cohorts coming into the district in 7th grade, much smaller, and so we're seeing that continued decline. And so now this table now has about a 10-year window. So you can see where we were at in 2015-16, we had a little over 40,000 students. We're now projecting by 25-26, almost 34,000 students. So that's a significant drop in revenues over the course of that decade. So we'll continue to monitor this, but these numbers are what are factored into our 23-24 financials and then the 2 additional years. One other variable that has changed since second interim now that we have is our P2, which is the cutoff the Friday right before spring break for our average daily attendance. We had a number of a little over 91%. It actually came in a little bit lower. It came in at 90.39%. So we now, because it's a new variable, we have to include it in our calculation. And it has had about an impact of about $2 million. So the district certainly hasn't rebounded to the levels we were at prior to the pandemic. The district was about 94%. And so we've just now even projected going out, just kind of slowly going back up. We're at 91%. The county has asked us for a lot of data in this area to make sure that, kind of supporting those numbers because the district's not alone. This is also something countywide, statewide, everyone still has not rebounded to this level, but it has certainly an impact from a financial revenue standpoint. These are all the other components that we look at with revenues and so forth. Same thing with expenditures. We get data from School Services of California. So with the governor's release in May, we got additional consumer price index information and variables that we factor into our projections. And with all of those different elements, we take a look at where we're at in our current year, because what's important in our current year, that ending fund balance is what carries forward to the beginning of the 23-24 budget. And what's unique, this is our second year, we had to do this last year, and now going into this year, and what Dr. Alvarez had mentioned, with the local control accountability plan, the carryover. So we have to look at where we're at in what we project in June. And so looking at that LCAP specifically, we have to make adjustments that we're not going to spend those dollars. So what we see in the patterns, those are not going to be dollars that are going to be spent. And I've got it footnoted here at the bottom, and it ties to what Dr. Alvarez was saying. For the 21-22 year, we had about $8.7 million of still unspent dollars. So these are kind of a slight restriction within the unrestricted fund, in a sense, with the LCAP. And then for 22-23, we have a little over 20 million. So that together, so when we're building the estimated actuals for June, why you see that change from column D to E, going from about $87 million to 110. And I'll show you then on the next slide how we then have to account for this $29 million as being spent next year. So this is the nuances of how now we have to incorporate the LCAP. So it's an adjustment there. And again, as we close the books over the course of the next few, once we get to June 30th over the summer, this has encumbrances with personnel, encumbrances with vendor contracts and things like that. Once we close the books, if those encumbrances, those obligations no longer are there, then that might change our number a little bit too, as we do our work over the summer. Okay. Again, this just highlights our revenues, and so we can see that overall state funding is about $488 million that we're looking at. Kind of stays a little static, and it goes down a little bit. And then here's our multi-year projection. So where you see that beginning 110 million, which has that LCAP carryover. When you look at column B compared to column C, and specifically our expenditure line item, we have to, based on what's on the LCAP, assume those $29 million of carryover are going to be spent next year. Dr. Alvarez highlighted those specific slides in the areas that we've already done some allocations for staff. So those dollars are assumed to be spent. So when you compare it to column C, you can see we're at 423 versus 391, because the assumption is just one time. It's not going to be carried forward. And then when you look to the line 8, it makes it look like it's like a deficit spend. It's because we're spending that beginning balance of the carryover. So it's a lot of just the nuances with this LCAP. And then just staying on that line 8, when you're looking forward, we're in essence kind of breaking even for the next 2 years operationally, right? Looking at all of our, as I always say, the puts and takes of the revenues coming in and the expenditures going out, our various obligations, we're in essence kind of breaking even. And then with that, looking at the reserves, we've got all our commitments with our 2% set aside. So that's where you see in the assigned column. That's what we've restored over the last few years. And then with the board's direction too, with the 3% contingency. What is unique at this time frame, because of where the state is at with the deposits, they have the rainy day fund, it's triggered the 10% cap. And so school districts have to align to that. And because of that, that's why you see, and we'll bring forward at the next board meeting, the resolution, the committing of the funds. You see that reserve for declining enrollment, because that's what's going to help kind of offset future. That's going to be a commitment. So it kind of carves that amount out of that 10% calculation. So again, it's kind of aligning to where we were at with second interim and some of our projections. It's just this nuance with the LCAP. Okay. This is just one of the requirements that the county also has us in here to kind of note that of our assigned reserves that we have the 2% and then the 3%. So we just have to disclose that. In regards to cash flows, we don't anticipate, we still have cash in the account that we project out for next year that will not require, at least at this point, interfund borrowing or a tax revenue anticipation short-term borrowing. So we have the cash to carry us through the next year. And then the next few slides go into our adult fund, our cafeteria fund, all of our capital funds. Again, all of those are balanced with the reserves and the dollars that we're, especially on the capital side, the projects that we're going to spend funds on. So those have all been accounted for. And then with that, and in the board package, you do have our standardized account code structure. So we've gone through the entire report, looks at all of the various criterion standards. It looks at the various technical review checks. And then also you have, there's a lot of work that goes into preparing our financial and position summary report. So that is school by school that details all of our positions, all of the financial funding sources for each school. So that's also detailed there for your review. And again, this is the first read at it. As I mentioned earlier, in terms of next steps, and as Dr. Alvarez mentioned too, we'll be bringing forward to you for adoption on the 26th. But again, there's a lot of movement at the state, so depending on what occurs and kind of what information trickles down to us, a lot of that will probably be reflected in that 45-day. But there's still certainly a lot to follow at the state. And with that, if there's any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Salchow. Do we have any questions? Trustee Lopez Cepeda.
I have wondering, when you were talking about that 10% cap, that included the 2% in reserves plus the 3% that was voted on by previous board. And is that part of that 10% cap, or is it something
So
totally
it
different?
stays below, I call it kind of above the line and below the line. So we can demonstrate that the cap is met because that 2% and 3% fall below. If we add the reserve for declining enrollment in that calculation, that would certainly push us above the 10%. So that's why that is committed by the board for various,
Okay,
separate.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Trustee Solis?
Thank you, President Segura. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for clarifying the slides. With regards to the cash flow on page 22, I think this is the first time we've ever not had to borrow money. From,
been a while.
since I've been, yes. Would that include the 15 million that we have to pay back?
Yeah, so our cash flows do reflect that, because that is a requirement that the county wanted us to include. It will all depend on when the final state budget comes, but to be conservative in that regard, the cash flow does reflect the payback in July.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that.
Any other questions? Yeah, Dr.
No
Arencibia.
question, I just want to comment. It's a pleasure working with you, Dr. Sacco. I remember when we first got in as a board member, and it was the craziest time I think I've ever looked at numbers in this way, and now to see a very measured, very structured approach of how we're dealing with the budget, and we have contingencies as well. Thank you for the leadership and your leadership, and Dr. Aguirre, for your leadership as well.
Thank you. No other questions. That's just a first reading, so no action required. So then we could move on to the next item, which is, this is the point on agenda where members of the public may address the board on any matter not on the agenda and have 3 minutes each to do so. Pursuant to board bylaw, the board may limit the time for public comment on any signal topic to 20 minutes per topic. The Board of Trustees cannot legally take action on or respond to matters not posted on the public agenda, but will refer the matter to Superintendent's office for review and report. Thank you for your cooperation.
Michelle Beal.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Dr. Aguirre. My apologies for not being able to attend in person, but with it being summer vacation, I'm currently out of the state. As we conclude another school year, I would like to take a moment to reflect on this past school year. I think we can all agree that this past school year was filled with highs and lows and at times many frustrations. As counselors, we often felt left out of discussions, that information was not communicated to us in a timely manner, and that our knowledge and expertise was often overlooked. But nevertheless, through it all, we persevered and we all did what we always do, what is right for students, because that's truly why we are here, is the students. Dr. Aguirre, throughout the year, we have had many discussions about the role of school counselor in our district, and I thank you for your willingness and desire to continue to not only support the work we as counselors do, but to truly learn and understand the work we do to serve the students in our district. Of course, not every discussion we have had has resulted in us agreeing, but we have always shared the same sentiment. The role of school counselors is essential in helping our students achieve academic excellence while supporting their overall mental health and well-being. As we move into the next school year, I hope that we can both take from our conversations and continue to work toward improving our working relationship, which sees us both respecting the work we each do to ensure our students are provided the best possible educational opportunities. In listening to the healthy discussion regarding the overview of the LCAP, and the overwhelming need for mental health and social emotional supports for students, please know, as counselors, we are of course here to assist students with mental health supports and ready to step up to the challenge before us. So tonight, I will conclude by saying thank you all for an exciting and interesting year. I look forward to working together to make next year even better, and have a great summer.
No further speakers.
Thank you. Clerk of the board, will you please read the items being pulled from the consent agenda?
The following items are pulled: F3 by staff, F8 by Mr. Segura, F10 by Mr. Segura, F13 by Mr. Segura, H7 by Ms. Lopez Zepeda, and Q6 by Mr. Segura.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
So, second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Carriaga,
Yes.
Arancibia,
Yes.
Emerald,
Yes.
Lopez Zepeda,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Solis.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, we can move to F3. Board reports, communication. Anybody have anything? Yes, go ahead, Trustee Solis.
Sure. Thank you, President Segura. I just wanted to congratulate Ms. Nina Hermosillo, Ms. Jenna Sather, Dr. Vernon Moore, and Ms. Guadalupe Estrada for their honoring our own awards this past May 27th, making our district look good. Really, they were well-deserved, so thank you. And also special thanks to San Isidro High School Color Guard with Lieutenant Commander Lormeyer for the presentation of colors during that event, and Natalie Woods, singer from Chula Vista High School, for the beautiful rendition of our national anthem. So I wanted to just thank them for that.
Dr. Arancibia.
And I'd like to be able to congratulate the graduates of Hilltop High School and Bonita Vista High School, as well as the middle schoolers that transitioned into high school. But I did want to know for this year, I mean, it was so cold the day that we were out there on that graduation day on San Bonita Vista. My back ended up clenching up, and I had to run out halfway through the award. And I was just like in a panic because I get really bad back pains in that kind of cold. So I'm like running home like an old man. When I got home, I realized this is the first graduation that Bonita Vista has ever had on their campus in 55 years. And it really hit me like a bag of bricks. And I want to congratulate, Principal Romero and the Bonita Vista graduates and all the staff that made it happen. It's really hard not to get choked up about that when I got home, and I was feeling a little warmer. My back was feeling a little bit better. And I just want to mention the fact that this is the first time that we haven't had a graduation at Hilltop High School or Southwestern College in 55 years. And it was really a momentous event. And I just want to say thank you for making that happen. And thank you, Janea, and all your work that you've done with regards to that. And I'll extend the thanks to Dr. Del Rosario as well, because he was one of the folks that had that vision too. But it's a huge, huge step. I congratulate the students. And I know there was something else I forgot to say, but I just wanted to just say thanks to everyone for that. It was really, really beautiful.
Thank you, Dr. Arancibia. Anyone else? Yes, Trustee.
First of all, I would like to extend my regrets for not being able to attend any of the graduations that I was scheduled for. Unfortunately, I had COVID. So it took me out of commission. I would like to congratulate all of the graduates from Otay Ranch, Eastlake Middle, Eastlake High School, and Mac Charter. Those are the graduations I was scheduled to attend, and I was terribly heartbroken because I was so excited to be able to attend. Thank you.
Trustee.
Thank you. First of all, a big thanks to Janea Quirk. After the folks from Southwest High came to our last meeting and spoke about in length about all of the issues that they've got with their track and their sports facilities, we were moved. We promised we would come and take a listen, and we did. We had a library filled with parents and students who offered their frustration, but also offered solutions. And I thought that, Ms. Quirk, you did an excellent job in explaining the process, that it doesn't, just get an approval and then you have sticks in the ground the next day. It does take time, and thank you for adapting your schedule in such a way that we can start thinking about how we can get those kids and the staff at Southwest High School a field that everybody in the district obviously wants, but they do need it. It's pretty sloppy, and we risk having kids getting hurt out there, stepping in holes, and it affects their their sense of worth. So I know that your being there made a big difference. It said that you care, that this district cares. So I wanted to thank you for that. And you really did miss a wonderful graduation promotion events. I'm so sorry you got sick. You know, my husband worked for this district for a number of years, and he told me that was the best thing about being in the district was to be able to go to the graduation ceremonies and how moving it was going to be. And, you know, I'm a tough old, you know, investigative journalist, and, you know, I don't get misty-eyed over much, but I'll tell you, my heart was just pounding out of my chest. Starting with the Launch Academy, the middle schoolers, the high school students, what courage they have. And they are so focused on achieving and being successful in life. It was just wonderful. Our friends at Montgomery High School, great graduation ceremony at Mar Vista, and our Southwest kids, obviously they couldn't graduate on their campus, but San Ysidro opened up in a fabulous facility and a fabulous crowd, and they were so welcoming. And our Southwest high school kids really showed up there too. So to everybody in the district, thank you for supporting these young people, for helping them have success in their middle school and high school, going on, many to major universities, and all of the instructors and staff at schools who make every day special and let kids know that they're our number one priority. So it was a wonderful experience, and I can't wait for next time. That'll be a lot of fun. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Emerald. I'll go next. I was able to attend 7 graduations, promotions, and enjoyed every single one of them. They're definitely the highlight of the year, and just all the positivity and just the happiness and the celebration is it's just really awesome. And I can't say enough about that. I truly appreciate those and all the work. I know it's a lot of work for the staff to get that done, and especially if they're on their site, which that's just kind of how we have set up now. And I know with everything else that's going on, to do that as well at the end of the year and doing a graduation is quite a lot. So I truly appreciate all the work that everybody puts into that. And with that, we'll move on to the next item, which is F8, pulled by me, correct? And I can do F8 and F13. It's our 2.5% one-time bonus, and I know that, you know, I think this just shows that we value our partnership. I know we're not done with everything, and there's still an ongoing negotiation, but you know that's something that we obviously we can afford right now, and I just hope that just shows that, you know, we appreciate the work that all the educators, because that takes care of everybody, F8 and 13. At least in terms of the one time. So I'm speaking in support of that. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve F8.
Second.
Are you joining them together, sir, or
Yes.
just F8? F8 and F13?
F8 and 13, yes.
Thank you.
Second.
Move in second and vote, please.
Carriaga?
Yes.
Arancibia?
Yes.
Emerald?
Yes.
Lopez Zepeda?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
And then go to F10, and that's been something that's been very important to me. Just things, items we've been discussing and talking about for a long time. We're actually doing something about it to support our CTE teachers, and I think that's very critically important. As you know, as I've said up here for a while, and I just truly appreciate all the work that's gone into that, and hopefully we'll do some more if, you know, the funds are there. So with that, we'll make a motion for F10.
Second.
Second.
Move a second and vote, please.
Carriaga?
Yes.
Arancibia?
Yes.
Emerald?
Yes.
Lopez Zepeda?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
That takes us to H7. Trustee Lopez Zepeda.
H7 is a memorandum of understanding with South Bay Union School District. South Bay Union School District is my employer for 18 more days, so therefore I will need to recuse myself on this vote.
Okay, understood. I'll make a motion for
Second.
move the second. Vote, please.
Carriaga?
Yes.
Arancibia?
Yes.
Emerald?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 recusal.
And takes us finally to Q6. which was pulled by me. I just feel that this is very important for us. I know we do this yearly, but it's just really something that, I know there's been a lot of, Q6, yes. There's been a lot, happening in around the state and the country around this, and I just feel that, it's very important for us to be supportive of this every year, and I didn't want this just to go by, just to pass on consent. I've been reading a lot about it, and I read that Assemblymember Chris Ward introduced HR 33, which is to recognize June as Pride Month, and his quote was, "A month that brings us together to connect with others who understand the journey and to express ourselves in the atmosphere of love and acceptance, and I think that says a lot. And I know there's other Senator Padilla had similar remarks, and we have a very a lot of support around this, and it needs to be, and we need to support our students and staff in all in the LGBTQ community. And with that, I'll make a motion to.
Can I make a
Yes,
comment?
yes, sir. I'm glad you will.
It's, yeah, I love the way that you put that, President Segura, that it's not just the students, it is the staff. And a percentage of our staff is a member of the community, and for that reason alone, we should be supporting each one of them. I want us to remember that we are a community that is comprised of these different parts, and we have to show love and respect for one another in that sense. As a kid that's as a father of a kid that's non-binary, I think this is one of the things that it's hard for folks that don't understand how inclusion works. You have to include those folks in the community, so they're not as seen as outsiders, as less than. And this is all what we're saying, that everyone that deserves a seat at the table needs to be here as part of the community. And I will gladly second your motion, President.
I think you have no other comments, so there we go, let's vote.
Arriaga?
Yes.
Arencibia?
Yes.
Emerald?
Yes.
Lopez Cepeda?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, that concludes our meeting, and thank you everybody for coming and participating. Good night, meeting is adjourned.